The blizzard should have killed her. Instead, it brought her face to face with the one man who could destroy everything she loved. Montana Territory, 1878. A Pinkerton detective saves an Apache woman from freezing to death, not knowing she's the sister of the fugitive he's been hunting for months. 3 weeks trapped together in a snowbound cabin. Trust built on lies. A love that could cost them both everything. If you love slow-burn Western romances with impossible choices and heart-stopping twists, subscribe now and hit that notification bell. Drop a comment telling me, would you choose family or justice? Let's ride into this story together. You saved my life to arrest my brother. Apache woman, rescued by Pinkerton during blizzard. The wind came from the north like a living thing hungry and cold. James Caldwell pulled his collar, higher eyes narrowed against the horizontal snow. His horse stumbled, recovered. The trail had vanished an hour ago, maybe two. Time moved differently in a blizzard. He should turn back. But the tracks had been fresh that morning. Boot prints heading west from the trading post, deliberate and quick. His partner Marcus had confirmed it, a lone rider, probably Indian, moving fast. Could be their man. Could be Kaya's brother. James had been chasing Daniel Windrider for 3 months. Train robbery in Wyoming. Dead rancher in Dakota. Always one town ahead, always just out of reach. The Pinkerton agency wanted results. James needed this arrest. One more success, and he'd have enough saved to quit buy that piece of land in Oregon. Forget he'd ever been a detective. Forget a lot of things. The horse stopped. James squinted through the white chaos. Something dark ahead, low to the ground. A rock formation, maybe. Or he dismounted, legs protesting. The cold was serious now, the kind that killed. He led the horse forward, each step deliberate. Not a rock. A person. James ran the last 10 yards, dropped to his knees. Small frame wrapped in a heavy wool blanket that had probably saved her life. Apache judging by the beadwork on her moccasins. Woman, young, unconscious. He touched her neck. Pulse there faint but steady. Can you hear me? No response. Her skin was ice. James looked back the way he'd come. Nothing but white. The trading post was 5 miles at least, probably more in this weather. She'd never make it. He might not make it. The canyon. He'd passed it an hour back, shallow depression in the rocks with an overhang. Not much, but enough to block the wind, enough to maybe survive the night. James lifted her carefully. Light, maybe 100 pounds. She didn't stir. He secured her on his horse, tied her with rope to keep her from falling, then led the animal back east. The wind screamed. The overhang was worse than he remembered, barely 6 feet deep, open on 3 sides. But the rocks blocked the worst of the wind, and there was space for a fire if he could get one started. James laid the woman on his bedroll, covered her with both their blankets. Her breathing was shallow, irregular. He'd seen hypothermia before. She was deep in it. First fire, he gathered what dead sage he could find, broke apart the driest pieces of his saddle pack. His fingers were clumsy, uncooperative. The matches kept going out. 5th try, 6th. The kindling caught. James fed it carefully, building the flames until real heat pushed back against the cold. Then he turned to the woman. She hadn't moved. Her face was peaceful, almost serene. High cheekbones, long black hair braided with small turquoise stones. 25, maybe younger. Pretty in a way that made him look away. Focus. He needed to warm her core. Wet clothes had to come off. James worked quickly, professionally. The blanket was soaked through. Underneath, she wore a deerskin dress, also wet, and beneath that, a cotton shirt. He removed the outer layers, left the shirt and leggings, wrapped her in his spare wool shirt, both blankets, his coat. Not enough. Body heat. The thought made him uncomfortable, but hypothermia didn't care about propriety. James lay down beside her, pulled her close. She was so cold, like holding ice. He wrapped his arms around her, shared his warmth, and watched the fire. The wind howled. Then she woke near dawn. James felt her tense, the sudden shift from unconscious to alert. He opened his eyes. She was staring at him. Dark eyes, wide, body rigid. "You're safe," he said quietly. "You were freezing. I found you in the storm." She didn't move. "I'm not going to hurt you. My name is James Caldwell. He stopped. Saying Pinkerton might not help. "I'm a traveler. The blizzard's still going. We're stuck here until it passes. Still nothing. James slowly moved back, giving her space. She watched him like a cornered animal, every muscle ready to run. Are you hurt? He asked. Besides the cold, a long silence. Then no. Her English was perfect, barely accented. That surprised him. What's your name? She hesitated. Kaya. The name hit him like a fist. Kaya. Daniel Windrider's sister. The one who'd vanished from the San Carlos reservation 6 months ago. Marcus had mentioned her in passing. Educated at the mission school, worked as a translator, disappeared the same week her brother went on the run. James kept his face neutral. I'm glad you're alive, Kaya. That was close. She studied him, seeming to weigh something. Why help me? Because you needed help. White men don't usually help Apache. I'm not most white men. A ghost of something crossed her face, not quite a smile, not quite trust. She sat up slowly, wincing. How long was I out there? I don't know. I found you yesterday afternoon. Kaya looked past him at the storm still raging outside. The blizzard. I was running from... She stopped. From what? It doesn't matter. James added wood to the fire. We've got food for maybe 3 days if we're careful. Water's not a problem with all this snow. Storm like this could last a week. A week, she said it flatly. Maybe less. Hard to tell. Kaya pulled the blanket tighter. She was shivering again, though the fire was strong now. Delayed shock, probably. You should rest, James said. Your body needs to recover. What were you doing out in the storm? The question was sharp, analytical. James chose his words carefully. Tracking someone, lost the trail when the weather turned. Tracking. Her voice was careful. You're a lawman. Not a question. Detective, James admitted. But right now, I'm just a man trying to survive a blizzard. Same as you. Kaya's eyes narrowed. Who are you tracking? James met her gaze. Lying would be easy, but something about the way she looked at him, like she already knew, like she was testing him, made him tell the truth. A fugitive. Train robber. Wanted in 3 territories. What's his name? The moment stretched. Outside, the wind shrieked. Daniel Windrider. Kaya's face went absolutely still. The fire crackled between them. Kaya hadn't moved, hadn't spoken. Just stared at James with those dark eyes, unreadable. Finally, you know who I am. Yes. How long have you known? Since you told me your name. She laughed, bitter and sharp. And you didn't tie me up. Didn't question me. We're trapped in a blizzard, James said. What would be the point? The point is, I know where my brother is. Do you? Kaya looked away. No, I haven't seen Daniel in 8 months. The admission surprised him. James had assumed they were working together, that her disappearance from the reservation was connected to his crimes. But you were looking for him, he said. That's why you were out in the storm. Yes. Why? Because he's my brother. She said it like it was obvious, like family was reason enough. Because he's innocent. James had heard that before. Every fugitive had someone who believed in them, usually family, usually wrong. The evidence says otherwise. Evidence can be manufactured. 3 witnesses put him at the train robbery. He killed a rancher in... Daniel doesn't kill. Kaya's voice was hard. He's a healer. He spent 2 years learning medicine at the mission. He saves lives, he doesn't take them. People change. Not like that, not him. James added more wood to the fire. Outside, the blizzard showed no sign of stopping. Tell me what happened. From the beginning. Kaya was quiet for a long time. Then she started talking. Her brother had worked as a scout, she said. Honest work, helping settlers navigate Apache territory. He tried to be a bridge between 2 worlds, believing peace was possible. Then came the train robbery. A mail car hit outside Laramie. 2 guards killed, 20,000 in gold stolen. Witnesses described the robbers: 5 men, 3 white, 2 Indian. One of the Indian men matched Daniel's description. He was in Arizona that week, Kaya said, with our grandmother. 50 people could confirm it. The Pinkerton report says, your report is wrong. James had read it a dozen times. Marcus had compiled it thorough and detailed. The evidence was solid, but something in Kaya's certainty made him pause. What about the rancher, he asked. Thomas Mackenzie, shot dead in his own barn. Daniel was in Santa Fe, working with a doctor. I have letters. Anyone can write letters. Anyone can lie. Kaya's eyes flashed. Tell me, detective, have you ever been wrong? The question hit deeper than she knew. James had been wrong once. Wrong about a case, wrong about a man. A rustler in Kansas supposedly armed and dangerous. James had cornered him in a barn, called out scene movement. Fired. The man had been unarmed. 16 years old, just trying to hide. James had been cleared. Justified shooting, the report said. The boy had a record, had been in the wrong place. But James still saw his face. I've been wrong, he said quietly. Kaya studied him. Then maybe you're wrong now. Maybe, but the evidence can be planted. Witnesses can be paid. People can be framed. She leaned forward. My brother wouldn't run if he was guilty. He'd face trial. He believes in the law. Then why did he run? Because he knew no one would believe him, because Apache don't get fair trials. James couldn't argue with that. The silence stretched. Outside, the storm raged on. One. They settled into an uneasy routine. James kept the fire going, rationed. Their food melted snow for water. Kaya recovered slowly, her strength returning in increments. They didn't talk much that first day. The blizzard filled the space between them with howling white noise. By the second day, the silence became unbearable. Where did you learn English? James asked, stirring a pot of thin stew. Mission school, San Carlos. Kaya was sitting against the rock wall, blanket wrapped around her shoulders. The priest thought if they taught us your language, we'd become more like you. Did it work? I learned the language. I didn't stop being Apache. James handed her a tin cup of stew. Their fingers brushed. Both pulled back quickly. Why did you become a translator? He asked. Someone had to speak for the people who couldn't speak for themselves. She sipped the stew, made a face. This is terrible. It's food, eh? Barely. Despite everything, James almost smiled. I'm a detective, not a cook. Clearly. They ate in silence. The stew really was terrible. My grandmother taught me to cook, Kaya said eventually. Real food. Acorn bread, roasted mezcal, venison stew with wild onions. She said a person who can't feed themselves is helpless. Smart woman. She died last spring. Kaya's voice was flat. Army rations. Bad meat. 30 people died that month. James set down his cup. I'm sorry. Are you... Your people did it? They're not my people. You work for them. I work for the law. Kaya laughed harsh. The law that forces us onto reservations. The law that takes our land, our children, our lives. That law, James had no answer for that. The third day the storm broke. Not ended, just paused. The wind died to a moan, the snow to scattered flurries. Visibility returned in gradual stages, 10 feet, 20, 50. James stood at the edge of the overhang, studying the landscape. White in every direction. The trail was buried. His horse stood hip-shot nearby, exhausted but alive. We should move, Kaya said behind him, before the next wave hits. Where? There's a line shack about 6 miles west, old trapper's cabin. If it's still standing, we can wait out the rest of the storm there. How do you know that? I've traveled this country. I know every cabin, every water source, every place to hide between here and the border. Looking for her brother, James thought. 6 miles in deep snow, he said. Can you make it? Kaya's jaw tightened. Can you climb? They left an hour later. The journey was brutal. Snow to their knees, sometimes their waists. The horse struggled, breaking trail. James and Kaya took turns walking ahead, testing the ground. The cold was relentless. James watched Kaya, looking for signs of fatigue. She moved steadily, methodically, no wasted motion. Apache stamina, she'd been raised in this land, knew how to survive it. There, she said around midday, a dark shape in the distance. Slowly it resolved into a small cabin, half buried in snow. The roof was intact, the door hanging crooked but present. They reached it as the wind picked them up again. Inside was dim, frigid, but blissfully still. One room, maybe 12 by 12. A stone fireplace, a broken chair, a pile of old furs in the corner that might have been a bed once. Home sweet home, James muttered. Kaya was already at the fireplace, checking the chimney. It's clear. We can have a fire. They worked together, unloading the horse, gathering what sparse wood they could find, getting a fire started. James felt something shift between them. Not trust exactly, but the beginnings of partnership. Survival created its own bond. By evening, they had heat food and the storm howling safely outside. James cleaned his revolver while Kaya sorted through the old furs, salvaging what was usable. The silence was almost comfortable. "Why did you become a detective?" she asked suddenly. James looked up. "It's a bow." "That's not an answer." He set the gun down. "My father was a sheriff, small town in Missouri. I grew up watching him keep the peace, settle disputes, catch criminals. He believed in justice. Real justice, not just law." "What's the difference?" "Law is what's written. Justice is what's right." James picked up the gun, again sighted down the barrel. "They don't always match." "No," Kaya said softly. "They don't." Another silence. "There's something you should know," what James said. "About the investigation." Kaya went still. "I'm not the only one looking for Daniel. My partner, Marcus Reed, he's been tracking leads in Colorado. He thinks your brother is heading for Mexico." "Is he?" "I don't know. Marcus handles that side. I was following the Montana trail. And now you're trapped with me." James met her eyes. "And now I'm trapped with you." The fire crackled. Outside, the blizzard's second wave hit with renewed fury. 5 days in the cabin. The storm refused to break, layer after layer of snow sealing them in. James marked time by the fire, by meals, by the slow rotation of light through the single dirty window. Kaya was everywhere and nowhere. She moved through the small space like smoke, quiet and efficient. She improved their food, taught James how to make the thin supplies last. She told stories sometimes late at night, Apache legends about Coyote the trickster, about white-painted woman, about the mountain spirits. James found himself listening more than he should. "Your people have stories like this," Kaya said one night, "about how the world began, how humans learned to survive." "The Bible?" "Yes, different words, same truths." She poked the fire. "My grandmother used to say, all stories are true, even the ones that didn't happen." "What does that mean?" "It means truth isn't just facts, it's meaning, purpose." James thought about that, about the difference between evidence and truth. "Tell me about Daniel," he said. Kaya was quiet for a long time. "What do you want to know?" "What kind of person he is, not the criminal." "The brother." She drew her knees up, wrapped her arms around them. "Daniel is gentle, too gentle for the world we live in. When we were children, he couldn't hunt. He'd track the deer, get close enough to shoot, then couldn't do it. Said he could feel their fear." "How did he survive?" "He learned to fish, to gather, to heal." She smiled slightly. "Our father was ashamed, said he'd raised a daughter instead of a son. But Daniel didn't care. He knew who he was. And then, and then the world changed. The wars came, the reservations. Daniel watched our people die, not from bullets, from despair. He decided to learn white medicine, thought maybe he could save them." The smile faded. "But you can't heal what's broken from the outside." James added wood to the fire. "When did you last see him?" 10 months ago. He came to visit on the reservation. Told me he'd been offered work scouting for the army. Good money, he said. A chance to help both sides." "Did you believe him?" "I believed he believed it." Kaya's voice was sad. "Daniel always sees the good in people, even people who don't deserve it. Like me." She looked at him. "I don't know yet." The honesty startled him. Dunno. The sixth day brought clarity. Not in the weather that was still brutal, but between them something shifted. James woke to find Kaya already up boiling snow for coffee. The cabin was warm, the fire tended. She'd braided her hair differently, incorporated some of the turquoise stones into a pattern he didn't recognize. "Morning," he said. "You snore." "I don't snore." "You absolutely snore." She poured coffee into 2 cups, like a bear with a chest cold. James took the cup, tried not to smile. "I'll try to die more quietly next time." "Appreciated." They drank in comfortable silence. Outside, the wind had shifted, coming from the west now. The storm was moving on. "We'll be able to leave soon," Kaya said, reading his thoughts. "Yes." "What happens then?" The question hung between them. James set down his cup. "I have a job to finish." "Finding my brother?" "Yes." And if you find him, I arrest him. He gets a trial. A fair trial. James wanted to say yes, wanted to believe it. But he'd seen too many trials, too much prejudice, disguised as justice. I'll do everything I can to make sure it is, he said. Kaya studied him. That's not the same thing. No, it's not. She turned back to the fire. Daniel once told me that the worst thing about living between two worlds is that you never fully belong to either. You're too Indian for the whites, too white for the Indians. You exist in the space between, always translating, always explaining, never quite home. Is that how you feel? Every day. James thought about his own life. The detective who questioned the law. The white man who'd started to see its flaws. Maybe he understood more than he wanted to. Where will you go, he asked, when the storm ends? To find Daniel before you do. Kaya, I know you won't stop looking. I know you have a job. She met his eyes. But he's my brother, and I know he's innocent. How can you be so sure? Because I know him. Because blood doesn't lie. She paused. And because I know who really killed Thomas Mackenzie. The words dropped like stones. James went very still. What? The rancher? The one Daniel is accused of murdering? Kaya's voice was level controlled. I know who did it, and I can prove it. Then why haven't you gone to the authorities? Because the killer is your partner. Marcus Reed. The cabin seemed to tilt. James stood, needing space, needing air. His mind raced. Marcus, his partner for 2 years. Thorough professional, sometimes ruthless, but always effective. A killer. That's impossible, he said. As it, Kaya stood too. Think about it. Who compiled the evidence against Daniel? Who identified the witnesses? Who's been driving this investigation from the beginning? Marcus is a good detective. Marcus is a murderer. You have no proof. I have a witness. James stopped. My brother was in Santa Fe when Mackenzie died. Kaya continued, her voice steady. But he was supposed to be in Montana. Marcus knew this. He hired Daniel to scout the northern route, then sent him to Santa Fe with fake documents, fake letters. Daniel thought it was legitimate work. That's speculation. It's truth. While Daniel was away, Marcus killed Mackenzie and planted evidence. Made it look like an Indian did it. Made it look like Daniel. Why would he do that? Because Mackenzie discovered something. I don't know what, but it was enough to get him killed. Kaya moved closer. And Marcus knew Daniel was the perfect scapegoat. Apache, scout, easy to frame, easy to hunt. James's head was spinning. Your witness. Who is it? A ranch hand. Name's Billy Cutter. He saw Marcus at the Mackenzie place the night of the murder. Saw him leave covered in blood. Why hasn't he come forward? Because Marcus threatened him. Threatened his family. Kaya's eyes burned. Billy's terrified. But he'll talk if someone he trusts asks him to. Someone like me. Yes. James walked to the window, stared at the white landscape. His mind worked through it, testing every angle. It made a horrible kind of sense. Marcus had been the one pushing hardest to catch Daniel. Marcus had been the one insisting on the Apache angle. Marcus had been his partner, his friend. Where is Billy Cutter? James asked. On the Mackenzie ranch, still working there. That's 3 days' ride from here. 4 in this weather. Yes. James turned. Kaya stood by the fire watching him. Waiting. If you're lying to me, I'm not. If this is some scheme to protect your brother, it's not. She took a step forward. James, I know you don't fully trust me. I know you shouldn't, but I'm telling you the truth. Marcus Reed killed Thomas Mackenzie, and he's using your investigation to cover his tracks. The fire crackled between them. James made a decision. When the storm breaks, he said, we ride to Mackenzie's ranch together. We find Billy Cutter. And if he confirms your story, he paused, then I'll help you find your brother, before Marcus does. Kaya's shoulders sagged slightly, relief breaking through her careful control. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. If Billy doesn't back up your story, he will. If he doesn't, you understand I have to. I understand. They stood there, two people from different worlds bound by necessity and something deeper, something neither was ready to name. Outside, the storm began to ease. The storm died on the seventh day, not gradually, suddenly, as if someone had drawn back a curtain. James woke to silence, absolute and startling. No wind, no snow hissing against the cabin walls, just quiet. He sat up. Kaya was already awake, standing at the window. "It's over," she said. James joined her. Outside, the world was white and still. The sky was pale blue, cloudless. Sunlight made the snow glitter like crushed diamonds, beautiful and deadly. "We need to move fast," Kaya said, "before the next system comes through." James nodded. "How long to the Mackenzie Ranch?" 3 days if the trails are clear, 5 if they're not. She turned to face him. "And they won't be." Toilet. They left within the hour. The horse struggled through chest-deep drifts, blowing hard. James and Kaya walked ahead, taking turns breaking trail. The work was exhausting, each step a negotiation with the snow. By midday, they'd covered maybe 2 miles. "There's a trading post," Kaya said during a brief rest. "Half a day south. We can resupply, get a second horse." "You know the trader. I know everyone out here." James studied her. "You've been searching for Daniel a long time. Since the day he disappeared. Lone? Who else would help an Apache find a fugitive?" She didn't say it bitterly, just factually. They pushed on. The trading post appeared near sunset, a squat log building with a stable surrounded by snow-covered corrals. Smoke rose from the chimney. "Wait here," Kaya said. "Let me talk to him first." "Why?" "Because Dutch doesn't like Pinkertons. He'll talk to me. Might shoot you." Before James could argue, she was moving toward the building, swift and silent. James waited, hand near his revolver, watching the windows. Minutes passed. Then the door opened, and Kaya emerged, followed by a massive man with a gray beard and suspicious eyes. "This him?" the man Dutch asked. "This is him." Dutch looked James up and down. "Pinkerton. Former Army scout," Kaya said quickly, tracking a different case. The lie came smooth, natural. James kept his face neutral. Dutch grunted. "Need supplies. And a horse, too, if you have them." "Got one. Might have another if the price is right." They negotiated while James stood silent, letting Kaya handle it. She knew these people knew how to talk to them. He was just the outsider with money. 20 minutes later, they had 2 horses, fresh supplies, and Dutch's grudging hospitality for the night. "Storm's coming tomorrow," Dutch said, pointing west. "Smaller than the last one, but still mean. You want to reach Mackenzie's place, you leave at first light." "We will," Kaya said. Dutch looked between them, something knowing in his eyes. "You two traveling together long?" "Long enough," James said. "Uh-huh." Dutch's grin was crooked. "Well, barn's warm, stew's hot. Make yourselves comfortable." They ate in the trading post back room, a cramped space crowded with supplies and furs. Dutch told stories, tall tales about mountain men and grizzlies, probably half true at best. But they were entertaining, and the stew was good. James found himself relaxing slightly, the first time in days. Kaya caught his eye across the table. Something passed between them. Not quite a smile, but close. After dinner, Dutch showed them to the barn. "Warmest spot's the loft, plenty of hay. I'll wake you before dawn." "Thank you," Kaya said. Dutch paused at the door. "That brother of yours, he in as much trouble as they say." Kaya's face went carefully blank. "What have you heard?" "That he killed a rancher, that the Pinkertons are hunting him. That there's a price on his head." Dutch's voice was gentle. "Also heard he's innocent." "He is." "Then I hope you find him before they do." Dutch glanced at James. "Both of you." He left. James and Kaya climbed to the loft in silence. The hay was clean, the space warm. Through cracks in the walls, James could see stars. "Dutch knows," he said quietly. "He's known me since I was a child. He knows Daniel, too." Kaya spread out a bedroll. "Well, wrong. He won't say anything. You trust him." "With my life." James made his own bed, keeping a respectful distance. But the loft was small. They were maybe 3 feet apart. "You lied for me," he said. "Told Dutch I wasn't a Pinkerton." "I told him what he needed to hear." Kaya laid down, stared at the ceiling. "If he knew the truth, he would have asked you to leave. Probably at gunpoint." "And you didn't want that?" "No." "Why not?" She was quiet for a long moment. Because I need you to get to Billy Cutter, to clear Daniel's name. Another pause. And because you saved my life, I owe you that much. James wanted to say she didn't owe him anything, wanted to say he'd done what any decent person would do, but the words stuck. Get some sleep, he said instead. Long day tomorrow? Yes. The silence stretched. Outside, the wind was picking up again. Dutch was right, another storm coming. James, yeah, when we find Billy Cutter, when he tells you about Marcus? Kaya's voice was careful. What will you do? I don't know. Will you arrest your partner? James stared at the dark rafters. If he's guilty, yes. Even though he's your friend, especially because he's my friend. James rolled onto his side, could just make out Kaya's profile in the dim light. The law has to mean something, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And if Billy won't talk, if he's too scared, then I'll find another way to prove it. You believe me. She said it with wonder, like she hadn't expected it. I believe you believe it, and I believe your brother deserves a fair investigation. James paused. That's all I can promise right now. It's more than anyone else has offered. The wind rattled the barn walls. Somewhere below, the horses shifted and snorted. Kaya. Yes, if Marcus really did this, if he framed your brother. James struggled for the words. I'm sorry for everything the investigation put you through, for hunting Daniel when he was innocent. You didn't know. I should have looked harder, should have questioned more. You're questioning now, that's what matters. James wanted to believe that, wanted to think it was enough. Sleep came slowly, troubled by dreams of snow and blood and faces he couldn't quite see. They rode out before dawn as promised. The new storm hit around noon, not as fierce as the first, but steady and cold. James and Kaya pushed through it, trading the lead position every hour. The horses were fresh, strong. They made good time. By evening of the second day, they reached the edge of Mackenzie land. We can't just ride up to the ranch, James said, studying the sprawling property from a ridgeline. If Marcus has people watching, he does. Kaya pointed. See that line shack east corner of the property? There's been smoke from the chimney for the last 2 weeks. Marcus stationed someone there. How do you know? Because I've been watching this place for a month. Kaya's voice was matter-of-fact. I know every hand who works here, every building, every patrol route. James looked at her with new respect. You've been planning this. I've been surviving. There's a difference. They circled wide, avoiding the line shack. Kaya led them through a ravine, then up through aspens to a small rise overlooking the ranch house. Billy Cutter, Kaya said, pointing. He bunks in the small cabin, north side behind the main barn. He works the morning shift in the stable's evening shift, mending fence. You've been watching him specifically. He's the only one who'll talk. The others are either loyal to the new owner or too scared of Marcus. Who owns the ranch now? Mackenzie's brother, Edmund. He arrived from Chicago 2 weeks after the murder, took over the operation. Kaya's jaw tightened. He doesn't care about justice, just profit. James studied the layout. We wait until dark, approach the cabin from the back, talk to Billy alone. And if he won't cooperate, then we make him understand what's at stake. Full dark came slowly. James and Kaya waited in the trees, watching the ranch settle into evening routine. Lamps were lit, men moved between buildings. Dinner smells drifted on the cold air. Around 8 o'clock, a figure left the main barn, walked toward the small cabin. Medium-build, young, moving with the careful gait of someone who'd worked hard all day. That's Billy, Kaya whispered. They waited another hour. One by one, the lamps went out. The ranch grew quiet. Now, James said. They moved like shadows, keeping to cover. The cabin sat isolated 30 yards from the nearest building. No guards, no dogs. James knocked softly. Silence. Then footsteps. The door opened a crack. Billy Cutter was maybe 22 with sandy hair and tired eyes. He looked at James, then passed him to Kaya. His face went pale. He breathed. Hello, Billy Cow, Kaya said. We need to talk. I can't. I told you before. This is different. Kaya gestured to James. This is James Caldwell, Pinkerton detective. He's investigating Thomas Mackenzie's murder. Billy's eyes went wide with fear. He tried to close the door. James blocked it with his boot. I'm not here to hurt you. I just need the truth. I don't know anything. You saw Marcus Reed the night of the murder. You told Kaya that. I was wrong. I was mistaken. Billy, Kaya's voice was gentle. Please, my brother's life depends on this. Your brother killed Mr. Mackenzie. No, James kept his voice level. Daniel Windrider was in Santa Fe that night. He has witnesses, an alibi. Someone else killed Mackenzie and framed Daniel for it. Billy was shaking now. You don't understand. They'll kill me. They'll kill my family. Who will? James asked. I can't. Marcus Reed threatened you, didn't he? Told you to keep quiet or something bad would happen. Billy's silence was answer enough. James softened his tone. I know you're scared. I understand. But an innocent man is being hunted for a crime he didn't commit. And the real killer is still out there. Still dangerous. I have a mother, a sister. They live in town. If I talk, I'll protect them, James said. That's a promise. Whatever it takes, I'll make sure they're safe. Billy looked between them, desperate and torn. Please, Kaya said quietly. You're the only one who can help us. The young man's shoulders sagged. He looked old, suddenly exhausted. You'll really protect them. On my honor. Billy stepped back, opened the door wider. Come in, but be quick. The foreman does rounds at 10. The cabin was sparse, a bed, a table, a wood stove. Billy paced while James and Kaya stood by the door. It was late. Billy began, his voice low and rushed. Past midnight, I was in the barn with a sick horse. Heard shouting from the main house. Mr. Mackenzie and another man arguing. Did you recognize the voice? James asked. Not then, but I went to look. Stupid, I know, but Mr. Mackenzie had been good to me. I thought maybe he needed help. What did you see? Billy's hands shook. Two men in the study, through the window. Mr. Mackenzie and a stranger. The stranger had a gun. Describe him. Tall, dark hair, wearing a long coat, dark. They were arguing about papers, documents. Mr. Mackenzie was yelling something about fraud, about the law. Then what? The stranger shot him twice. Mr. Mackenzie fell. The stranger just stood there, calm, like it was nothing. Billy's voice cracked. Then he started setting the scene. Broke the window, took some valuables, made it look like a robbery. You saw his face, James said. When he left, he came out the front door, walked right past the barn. I hid, but I saw him in the lamplight. Billy looked at James. It was Marcus Reed, your partner. I'm sure of it. The words hung in the cold air. James felt something break inside him. Hope, maybe, or the last bit of faith he'd had in his profession. What happened next? He asked. Reed rode off. I waited until he was gone, then went inside. Mr. Mackenzie was already dead. I was standing there when the housekeeper came down. She screamed, thought I did it. Billy's voice was miserable. I tried to explain, but she ran for the foreman. By the time I got my story straight, Reed was back. With a deputy. With your people. He came back. The next morning, calm as anything, started the investigation. Asked me questions. Billy's eyes were haunted. He knew I'd seen him, knew I knew. He pulled me aside, said if I talked, my family would have an accident. Made it real clear. Did you tell anyone else? Kaya asked. Just her. Billy nodded at Kaya. When she came asking about her brother, I knew Daniel didn't do it, knew Reed was framing him. I wanted to help, but you were scared, James finished, and you had good reason to be. Billy slumped into a chair. Mr. Mackenzie found something. Papers, records. He told me the day before he died that he'd discovered fraud. Someone cheating the territory, stealing land. He was going to the marshal, going to expose them. Who? He didn't say, just that it went high up, important people. James's mind raced. Land fraud. That made sense. The territories were rife with it. False claims, forged documents, stolen deeds. Fortunes made on paper. And Marcus had been in Montana for 3 years. Plenty of time to build a network. Plenty of opportunity. Do you know where Mackenzie kept these documents? James asked. James. His study, in a safe. But after he died, Reed took everything, cleaned the whole place out, said it was evidence. Evidence that disappeared, Kia said bitterly. Billy looked at James. You really going after him? Reed's powerful. Connected. He'll kill you both if you try to expose him. Let him try, James said. His voice was cold hard, the voice of a man who'd made a decision. What do you need from me? Billy asked. A written statement. Everything you just told us. Signed it and dated. That's a death warrant. Not if we do this right. James pulled out a small notebook, handed it to Billy with a pencil. Write it down, every detail. Then pack a bag. You're leaving tonight. What? You and your family. I'm sending you to friends in Wyoming. People Marcus doesn't know. You'll be safe there until this is over. I can't just leave. You can and you will. James's tone left no room for argument. Write the statement. We'll handle the rest. Billy stared at the notebook. Then slowly he began to write. They left Billy's cabin, and an hour later the written statement tucked inside James's coat. The words burned against his chest like a brand. Evidence. Proof. Everything he needed to destroy his partner's life. His friend's life. You're quiet, Kaya said as they rode back into the trees. Thinking. About what you have to do. About what it means. James stared at the stars. Marcus and I rode together for 2 years, saved each other's lives. I trusted him. He's a murderer. I know. James's jaw tightened. Doesn't make it easier. They rode in silence. Behind them the ranch was dark. Billy would be packing now, preparing to run. James had given him money, a contact name, and Wyoming instructions to move fast. The kid would survive. James would make sure of it. What's the plan? Kaya asked. You can't just arrest Marcus. He'll fight. People will die. I know. And if you go to your superiors, he'll hear about it. He has sources, connections. I know that too. Kaya pulled her horse alongside his. So what do we do? James had been working through it, testing scenarios. There was only one way this worked. Only one way to take Marcus down clean. We make him confess, James said. How? We give him what he wants. We lead him to Daniel. Kaya went rigid. No. Hear me out. You want to use my brother as bait after everything we've learned. I want to clear his name. James kept his voice calm. Marcus is hunting Daniel. If we find Daniel first, if we control the meeting, we can record Marcus's confession. Get him talking about the Mackenzie murder, about the frame job. And if something goes wrong, if Marcus just shoots Daniel on sight, then we stop him. Together. Kaya was silent for a long moment. You're asking me to trust you. Completely. Yes. To risk my brother's life on your plan. Yes. Why should I? James met her eyes. Because I'm asking. Because I'll stake my life on this. And because it's the only way to give Daniel what he deserves, his freedom and his name back. The wind moved through the trees, cold and constant. Where is he? James asked. Where is Daniel hiding? Kaya's face was anguish torn. This was the moment, the point where trust either happened or shattered. I don't know exactly, she said finally, but I know how to find him. He left me marker signs, Apache trail signs. Only I can read them. How long to reach him? 3 days, maybe 4. And Marcus? How far behind is he? Yeah, close. He's been tracking the same signs, just slower. Doesn't know the land like I do. Kaya's voice was tight. We have a small window. Days, not weeks. James nodded, decision made. Then we move now. We find Daniel, we set the trap, and we end this. And if it goes wrong, then I'll die keeping your brother alive. That's my promise. Kaya studied him in the starlight. Something shifted in her expression, the last wall coming down. All right, she said, I will take you to him. But James, if you betray us, if this is some elaborate plan to capture Daniel yourself, I won't. How can I be sure? Because I'm done being Marcus Reed's partner, done being his friend, done being the kind of detective who puts cases before people. James's voice was raw. He used me, used my investigation to hunt an innocent man. I won't let that stand. The words rang with truth. Kaya must have heard it because she nodded slowly. 3 days, she said. I'll take you to him. And God help us both if this fails. They rode west toward the mountains, toward the hidden places where fugitives go to ground. Behind them in the ranch house, Billy Cutter finished packing. He looked at his small cabin one last time, then slipped into the night, heading for the stage station and a new life. And in a hotel in the nearest town, Marcus Reed woke from a nightmare. Something in his gut telling him the hunt was about to change. He checked his guns and went back to sleep, dreaming of blood and gold and Apache faces in the dark. The mountains swallowed them. 3 days of climbing through pine forests, across frozen streams, up slopes so steep the horses struggled. Kaya led without hesitation, following signs James couldn't see. A broken branch here, stones arranged just so there. Apache trail markers invisible to anyone who didn't know how to look. On the third day, the sign stopped. "We're close," Kaya said, dismounting in a small meadow. "Daniel's watching us. He has been for the last mile." James scanned the tree line, saw nothing. "How do you know?" "Because he's my brother. I know how he thinks." She cupped her hands around her mouth and called out in Apache. The words were musical, rising and falling. Silence. Then a figure stepped from the trees. Daniel Windrider was smaller than James expected. Maybe 5'8", slender, with long black hair and gentle eyes. He wore buckskins and carried a rifle but held it loosely, non-threatening. He said something in Apache. Kaya responded. The conversation went back and forth, rapid and emotional. Finally, Kaya switched to English. "Daniel, this is James Caldwell. He's a Pinkerton detective, but he's not here to arrest you. He's here to help." Daniel's eyes were cautious. "Why would a Pinkerton help me?" "Because he knows you're innocent," Kaya said. "Because we have proof Marcus Reed killed Thomas Mackenzie. Because he wants to make this right." Daniel looked at James for a long moment. "You're Reed's partner." "I was. Why should I believe you?" It was a fair question. James had asked himself the same thing 100 times over the past days. "Because I've been wrong before," James said quietly. "Because I shot a boy in Kansas who didn't deserve to die. Because I've seen what happens when detectives care more about closing cases than finding truth." He paused. "And because your sister believes in you. That's enough for me." Daniel studied him. Then slowly he lowered the rifle. "Come," he said. "We shouldn't talk in the open." Daniel's camp was a cave, well hidden and well supplied. He'd been living there for weeks, maybe longer. A small fire burned at the entrance, carefully positioned so the smoke dispersed before rising above the tree line. They sat around the fire while Kaya explained everything: Billy Cutter's testimony, the land fraud, Marcus's frame job. Daniel listened in silence. When she finished, he was quiet for a long time. "I knew someone was setting me up," he said eventually. "But I didn't know who, didn't know why." His voice was soft, sad. "I thought maybe I'd done something wrong without knowing. Thought maybe I deserved it." "You didn't," James said. "None of this is your fault. Reed used me, sent me to Santa Fe with fake work, fake papers. I thought I was helping." Daniel's hands clenched. "While I was gone, he killed Mr. Mackenzie, then blamed me." "Did Mackenzie ever talk to you?" James asked. "About the fraud, the documents?" "Once, maybe 2 weeks before he died." Daniel frowned, remembering. "He asked me questions about land claims, about the reservation boundaries. Said something didn't add up in the territory surveys." "What didn't add up?" "He didn't say, just that he was going to investigate, going to bring it to the marshal." James's mind worked through it. Land fraud in Montana meant stolen territory, forged claims. And if Mackenzie had discovered it, had proof. "Marcus wasn't working alone," James said. "Land fraud this big requires multiple people. Officials, surveyors, someone high up in the territorial government." "Who?" Kaya asked. "I don't know yet, but Marcus will know, and we're going to make him tell us." Daniel looked at James. "You want to use me as bait?" "Yes. He'll try to kill me." "I'll stop him." "You can't guarantee that." "No," James admitted. "I can't, but I can promise to put myself between you and him. And I can promise that if we do this right, you walk away free, name cleared, life back." Daniel was quiet. Kaya touched his arm, said something in Apache. Daniel responded, his voice uncertain. "He's afraid," Kaka translated, "not of dying, of hoping." James understood that. Hope was dangerous. Hope could break you worse than fear. "I know," James said, "but it's the only way." Daniel looked at his sister. Something passed between them, wordless and deep. "All right," Daniel said. "Tell me the plan." "Oh, no." They worked through it carefully, testing every angle. James would send a telegram to Marcus, coded but clear. He'd claim to have found Daniel's trail to be closing in. Would request backup, suggest a meeting point. The meeting point would be a box canyon 20 miles south. High walls, one entrance, perfect for an ambush. Daniel would be visible alone, apparently unaware. James and Kaya would be hidden positioned to hear everything, to record the confession. Marcus will be suspicious, James said. He's too smart to walk into an obvious trap. So we make it look real, Kaya said. I'll leave signs, Apache trail markers leading to the canyon. Make it look like Daniel's hiding there like you tracked him yourself. And when Marcus arrives, I talk to him, Daniel said. Let him think I'm beaten, desperate. I tell him I know about the Mackenzie murder, about the frame job. I offer to disappear, to go to Mexico if he'll leave my sister alone. He won't agree, James said. He'll want you dead. Clean end to the case. That's when you step in. Daniel's voice was level. You've heard everything. You arrest him. He'll fight. Then we fight back. It wasn't a perfect plan. Too many things could go wrong, but it was the only plan they had. We send the telegram tomorrow, James said. Give Marcus 3 days to reach the meeting point. That gives us time to prepare. And if he doesn't come alone, Kaya asked, then we adapt. They sat in silence, each lost in thought. The fire crackled. Outside, night sounds filled the forest wind in the pines, the distant cry of an owl. James, Daniel said quietly, if this goes wrong, if Marcus kills me, he won't. But if he does, promise me you'll protect Kaya, get her to safety. Daniel, Kaya started, promise me. James met the younger man's eyes, saw the fear there and the courage beneath it. I promise, James said. They rode to the nearest town the next morning. It was a tiny settlement, barely more than a trading post and a telegraph office. James sent the telegram while Kaya and Daniel waited outside. The message was simple, trail hot, closing in, need backup. Canyon 20 miles south of Sweetwater Creek. 3 days. The operator looked at it, looked at James. You sure about this, mister? That country's rough. I'm sure, sir. The operator shrugged and sent the message. James walked out into the cold morning. Kaya and Daniel were mounted, ready to move. It's done, he said. They rode out, heading back into the mountains. Behind them, the telegraph wires hummed, carrying James's message across the territory. In a hotel room 200 miles away, Marcus Reed received the telegram, read it twice, smiled. Finally, he packed his bags, checked his weapons, and headed for the stable. 3 days to Sweetwater Creek. He'd make it in 2. Time to end this. Ta-da. The box canyon was perfect. Sheer walls on 3 sides, maybe 60 feet high. The entrance was narrow, barely wide enough for 2 horses. Inside, the space opened into a rough oval, maybe 100 yards across. A few scattered boulders, some scrub brush, and at the far end, a small overhang where someone could make camp. This is it, James said, surveying the space. This is where we make our stand. Kaya and Daniel began preparing. They built a small campfire under the overhang, made it look lived in. Daniel set up his bedroll, scattered personal items, made it look like he'd been there for days. Meanwhile, James and Kaya found hiding spots. There was a crack in the north wall, barely wide enough for a person. Kaya could squeeze in there, stay hidden, listen to everything. James chose a position behind the largest boulder near the entrance, close enough to intervene, close enough to protect Daniel. They worked through the afternoon, refining positions, testing sight lines. When Marcus comes, James said he'll be cautious. He'll check the canyon before entering. Daniel, you need to be visible, but not too visible. Like you're trying to hide, but failing. I understand. Kaya, you stay in the crack. Don't move unless you have to. Your job is to witness, to remember every word. And yours? To end this. James checked his revolver for the 10th time. One way or another. As the sun set, they ran through it again and again. Finally, Daniel called a halt. We're ready, he said, as ready as we'll ever be. They ate a cold dinner, not wanting to risk a fire that might be seen. Then they settled in to wait. The night was long and cold. James didn't sleep. He sat behind his boulder, revolver in hand, watching the stars wheel overhead, thinking about the boy in Kansas, about his father's idea of justice, about the distance between law and truth. Somewhere in the darkness, Kaya kept her own vigil. Daniel lay under the overhang, not sleeping either, just waiting. Dawn came slowly, pale and cold. James stood, stretched cramped muscles, checked his gun again. Today, and Daniel called softly, maybe tomorrow. But James had a feeling, a certainty in his gut. Today. Oh no. Marcus arrived at noon. James saw him first, a dark figure on horseback, moving cautiously through the trees. Marcus approached the canyon entrance, stopped, studied it. From his position, James could see his former partner clearly, the familiar profile, the careful way Marcus scanned the terrain. Marcus dismounted, ground-tied his horse, drew his revolver. Then he stepped into the canyon. Daniel was visible under the overhang, sitting by a coal fire. He looked up, saw Marcus, and went very still. "Daniel Windrider," Marcus called. His voice echoed off the stone walls. "Been looking for you." Daniel stood slowly, hands visible and empty. "Reed, where's your sister?" "Gone. Sent her away." "Where?" "Doesn't matter. She's safe from you." Marcus advanced, gun steady. "Nothing to say." "What's there to say? You've won." Daniel's voice was defeated, hollow. "I'm done running." "Good. Makes this easier." "Before you kill me," Daniel said, "I need to know why." "Why, Mackenzie?" "What did he find?" Marcus smiled. It was a cold expression, empty of humor. "Smart man, that rancher. Too smart. Found irregularities in the land surveys. Started digging into who filed the claims." "You." "Me and some partners. We've been buying up land for 3 years. Forged documents, fake surveys. When Montana becomes a state, we'll own half the territory." "But Mackenzie discovered it. He had documents, proof, was going to the marshal." Marcus shrugged. "Couldn't let that happen." "So you killed him and blame me." "Apache fugitive kills white rancher during robbery, easy story." "Easy close." Marcus's smile widened. "And it worked. Everyone believed it. Even my partner." "James Caldwell." "Especially James. Idealistic fool. He wanted to believe in justice. I let him." From behind the boulder, James felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. Daniel took a step forward. "What happens now?" "Now you disappear. Properly this time." Marcus raised his gun. "Sorry, Daniel. Nothing personal." "Except it is personal," James said, stepping into view. Marcus spun, gun swinging toward James. For a frozen instant, they faced each other across 20 feet of stone and dust. "James," Marcus's voice was carefully neutral, "didn't expect you. Didn't expect a lot of things. Didn't expect my partner to be a murderer. You're making a mistake." "No, I made a mistake trusting you. I'm fixing it now." Marcus's eyes flicked to Daniel, back to James, calculating. "You don't understand the money involved. The people. We could share it. Both of us. Rich men for life. Blood money. All money's blood money. You're just too naive to see it." "Drop the gun, Marcus." "Can't do that." "Then we have a problem." The canyon was silent except for the wind. Marcus moved first. He dove sideways, firing at Daniel. James fired at Marcus. 2 shots, deafening in the enclosed space. Marcus's bullet struck stone inches from Daniel's head. James's bullet hit Marcus in the shoulder, spun him around. Marcus kept moving, faster than James expected. He rolled behind a boulder, fired again. The bullet whined past James's ear. "Kaya," James shouted. "Stay down." He couldn't see her. Hoped she was safe in her crack in the wall. Marcus fired twice more, keeping James pinned. Then he was moving again, heading for the canyon entrance. James pursued, firing. 1 shot caught Marcus in the leg. Marcus stumbled, went down, but kept crawling. "It's over," James shouted. "Give up." Marcus rolled onto his back, gun coming up. "Never." Time slowed. James saw Marcus's finger tighten on the trigger, saw the barrel line up with his chest, knew he couldn't dodge in time. Then Daniel was there, tackling Marcus from the side. The gun went off. The bullet went wide. Daniel and Marcus wrestled in the dirt, grappling for the weapon. Daniel was younger, but Marcus was desperate. They rolled, fought, the gun between them. James ran forward, trying for a clear shot. The gun fired again. Both men went still. James reached them, kicked the gun away, pulled Daniel off Marcus. Daniel was breathing hard but unharmed. Marcus lay in the dust, blood spreading across his chest. The bullet had gone through his lung. He was dying. James knelt beside him. "Why, Marcus? We were partners. Friends." Marcus coughed, blood on his lips. "Money changes everything. It didn't have to be this way." "Yes, it did." Marcus's eyes were fading. "Tell them. Tell them I died chasing a fugitive. Let me have that. No, James said. I'll tell them the truth. Marcus smiled bitter and sad. Idealist. To the end. He died with that smile on his face. They buried Marcus at the canyon entrance. It felt wrong leaving him there, but bringing the body back would raise questions James wasn't ready to answer. Better to let the land take him. Daniel spoke words in Apache over the grave, some kind of blessing or prayer. James didn't understand the language, but he understood the sentiment. Even killers deserve prayers. Afterward, they rode back to the cave, gathering Daniel's supplies. The plan had changed. With Marcus dead, there was no recorded confession. Just Billy Cutter's written statement in a dead Pinkerton. What now? Kaya asked as they packed. Now we go to the territorial marshal, James said. We show him Billy's statement. Tell him everything about the land fraud, about Marcus, about the frame job. Will he believe us? He'll have to investigate. And once he starts digging, he'll find the proof, the forged documents, the false surveys. James looked at Daniel. You'll have to testify. It won't be easy. I know. There'll be powerful people involved. Marcus's partners. They'll fight to keep this quiet. Let them fight, Daniel said. His voice was harder than before. Shaped by weeks of running, by betrayal, by violence. I'm done hiding. They rode into the territorial capital 5 days later. The marshal was a grizzled veteran named Haynes, skeptical but honest. He listened to their story, read Billy's statement, studied the evidence James had compiled. This is serious, Haynes said. If what you're saying is true, it's true, James said. Then we're talking about conspiracy, fraud, murder. People in high places are going to burn. Good. Haynes leaned back in his chair. I'll need to verify everything. Interview witnesses, get sworn statements. How long? Weeks, maybe months. Haynes looked at Daniel. You'll need to stay in the territory, under my protection. I understand. And you? Haynes turned to James. The Pinkerton agency's going to want answers. Your partner's dead. You're claiming he was a criminal. They won't take that well. I'll deal with them. Your career's over. You know that. James had already accepted it. I know. Haynes stood, offered his hand. For what it's worth, you did the right thing. Not many men would turn on their partner, even a corrupt one. They shook. The investigation took 3 months. Haynes was thorough. He brought in federal marshals, territorial officials. They interviewed Billy Cutter, examined Mackenzie's financial records, traced the forged land claims. It all led back to Marcus Reed and 3 other men, a territorial surveyor, a claims office clerk, and a territorial judge. All 3 were arrested, tried, convicted. The scandal rocked Montana territory. Dozens of land claims were invalidated. Fortunes disappeared overnight. Daniel was cleared of all charges, given a formal apology by the territorial governor. The Pinkerton agency disavowed Marcus' claim they'd had no knowledge of his crimes. They offered James his job back with a promotion. He declined. Spring came slowly to Montana. Snow melted, revealing brown earth. Streams ran high with runoff. Birds returned, filling the air with song. James stood on a ridge overlooking a valley, watching the land wake up. Beautiful, isn't it? He turned. Kaya approached on foot, moving silently through the grass. It is, James agreed. Daniel's packing. Says he wants to travel, see places he's only heard about. He's earned that. Yes. Kaya stood beside him, looking out over the valley. What about you? What will you do? James had been thinking about that question for months, since the trial ended, since he'd turned down the Pinkerton offer. There's land for sale, he said, in Oregon, near a river. Good soil, room for a house, some animals. Sounds peaceful. It does. They stood in silence, watching the wind move through the grass. Kaya, James said, would you want to see it, the land in Oregon? She looked at him. Are you asking me to travel with you? I'm asking if you'd like to, if you'd want to. James struggled for the words. These past months working together, I've never felt more alive, more certain of what's right. And what's right, being with you, if you'll have me. Kaya smiled. It was the first real smile he'd seen from her, unguarded and warm. Yes, she said. I'd like to see Oregon. They left a week later. Daniel rode with them for the first day, then split off at a crossroads. He was heading east towards cities and new experiences, toward a life he'd almost lost. "Take care of her," Daniel said to James before leaving. "I will. And James, thank you for everything. You did the hard part, surviving." Daniel smiled. "We all survived. That's what matters." He rode away, becoming smaller in the distance until he disappeared entirely. James and Kaya continued west. The journey took 2 weeks. They crossed mountains, forded rivers, passed through forests thick with pine. The land changed gradually, becoming greener, wetter. Finally, they reached the valley James had bought. It was everything the seller had promised. A river clear and cold, rich soil, mountains in the distance, and silence, blessed peaceful silence. "It's perfect," Kaya said. They made camp that first night on the bank of the river, built a fire, ate a simple meal, listened to the water. "What do we build first?" Kaya asked. "House, barn." "House," James said. "We'll need shelter before winter." A small house, simple, with a large kitchen for cooking. Kaya laughed. "You remember my complaints about your stew?" "How could I forget?" They sat in comfortable silence. Above them, stars emerged one by one, bright and endless. "James," Kaya said, "do you think about him, about Marcus?" "Every day." "Do you regret it, turning on him?" James considered the question. "Thought about loyalty and justice, friendship and truth." "No," he said finally. "I regret believing in him too long. But I don't regret stopping him." "Good." More silence. The fire crackled. "We survived," Kaya said quietly. "Both of us, against everything." "We did. And now we build something that lad." Kaya reached over, took his hand. Her skin was warm, alive. "Yes," she said, "we build." They sat there until the fire burned low, two people from different worlds brought together by storm and circumstance. They'd lost things: innocence, faith, certainty, but they'd gained something more valuable: truth and each other. In the morning they would begin building, begin their new life. But tonight they simply sat beneath the stars, grateful to have survived, ready to begin again. The river sang its eternal song, and somewhere in the distance a wolf howled, not a warning but a welcome. The land knew them now, accepted them. This was home. 5 years later. The house stood on a rise above the river, timber frame, solid and warm. Smoke rose from the chimney. A barn stood nearby, horses visible in the corral. Inside, James worked on accounts while Kaya prepared dinner. The kitchen smelled of roasting venison, fresh bred herbs. A child's laughter came from the loft, their daughter Sarah playing with wooden toys James had carved. There was a knock at the door. James rose, hand instinctively going to the gun he no longer wore. Old habits. He opened the door. Daniel stood there, older now, with laugh lines around his eyes. He wore city clothes, carried a medical bag. "Hello, brother," he said in English, then Apache. "Daniel," Kaya ran to embrace him. "You came?" "Of course I came. You think I'd miss Sarah's birthday?" They gathered around the table, three people who'd survived impossible odds, who'd found peace in a violent world. Daniel told stories of his travels, of the medical school he'd attended, of the clinic he was opening in Santa Fe. Kaya talked about the garden, the animals, the neighbors they had helped through a hard winter. James mostly listened, content to let the conversation flow around him. Later, after dinner, after Sarah had fallen asleep, the three adults sat by the fire. "Do you ever think about going back?" Daniel asked. "To detective work?" James shook his head. "This is enough, more than enough. No regrets. Only that it took me so long to find it." Kaya squeezed his hand. Daniel smiled. "Good. You both deserve this. Deserve peace." "So do you," Kaya said. "I'm getting there, slowly." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the fire. Outside, the Oregon night was cold and clear. Inside, there was warmth, family, safety. Everything they'd fought for. Everything that mattered. "To survival," Daniel said, raising his cup. "To truth," James added. "To home," Kaya finished. They drank. Three survivors, three friends, three people who'd walked through fire and emerged whole. The fire burned low. The night deepened. And in the house by the river, peace settled like snow, covering the old wounds, making everything new. The end.